Hello, this is Hervé from Comic Book Bin, filling in since 2002. I'm looking at the retro Snow Serpent today. I only got one of them since I've got three of the original Snow Serpent, the classified version, of course. This was, in a sense, an unnecessary figure, having the other three, but many collectors could not get the original Snow Serpent. For some reason, it seems that us Canadians, we got a load of them, and other regions, they were just very rare. So I was able to army build the original Snow Serpent and decided that one of this version would be more than enough for me, even unnecessary. Had I known that the retro would be coming, I would have only gotten the original Snow Serpent, just one, and just army build with the retro. The reason it's valuable in a sense is because it comes with less stuff. It's weird to say. Yeah, a figure that comes with less gear is actually valuable. Well, if you look at the original Snow Serpent came with an extra knife that could not be stored anywhere. It's just one example of gear and equipment that didn't make sense. The original Snow Serpent came with a wolf hide. Well, it was a cape and a head gear that you put on his head. While this is a cool feature, it did increase the price and make this figure a deluxe one instead of a regular one. And at the same time, well, I only used one of the hides. I didn't use all of them. So only one of my Snow Serpent has the hide because I just want one leader. I don't need to have many of them. What I'll probably do is I'll switch around the hide to this one Snow Serpent, which is paler. So he'll be the leader from now on. And the other guys, the gray ones, will be the troops. The retro version of the Snow Serpent was an opportunity for Hasbro to redo the figure in a classic style. We all know that there are two camps in the G.I. Joe classified collector's world. Well, maybe three of them. One camp really would like reproduction of the original A Real American Hero line. Another one really wants modernized version of those characters. And I will say the third one wants an integrated version of that. It might even be a spectrum where some people are more on the clear reproduction in 6-inch of the original figures. Some people really don't want any of that and just want to get some new groovy stuff. And a lot of people are in the middle. Depending on the character, will go one way or the other. I might be a little bit on the middle on the modernizing side, but this figure is nice. It has its purpose. Like I said, it's going to be the leader of my squad as opposed to the regular troops since I'm only getting one. Now, it came with the exact same gear as the other one, and that's good in a sense. By gear, I mean the overlays and stuff. Those are the same. In terms of likeness, this figure is very reminiscent of the classic 3 to 4 inch Snow Serpent. It's the same color mostly, but it comes with that pack on its stomach, which, like many other people, I always thought was a parachute. Apparently, it's not a parachute, it's something else. The backpack, while not being exactly the same, it's a reuse of another figure, I believe, fits closely to the original look of the Snow Serpent. The face mask is the same, just like the original Snow Serpent. The visor that he wears is a bit lighter, so more bluish than dark blue. It's the same throughout his costume. Every blue overlay is now a lighter blue as opposed to the darker blue of the original Snow Serpent. Some of the features that made this figure so special were the weapons. Well, he doesn't have a mortar just like the original Snow Serpent, unfortunately. I wish they would have given him a mortar. This is the one weapon that we're missing in the G.I. Joe classified line, and we know it should be coming eventually because we have characters like Short Fuse whose whole shtick is to have a mortar. So this would have been a good opportunity to introduce a mortar. Instead, they gave him a submachine gun with support as if that would be good enough. He comes with two weapons also on his side. The fur overlays on his collar and his forearms are still present, just like the old figure. He really looks like the old character. The build itself is the same as obviously the original Snow Serpent, but also Snow Job. They have the same suit overall with different overlays here and there, different parts changed. For example, the trunk was changed, the shoulders were changed, the forearms were changed, but much of the legs are the same. The body is obviously the same. What I like about the Snow Serpent is that he's thick, it's massive, so it feels like he's wearing a snowsuit. And if you compare him to a Cobra eel, he's much more beefier, more back, and that's the way you would like your Snow Serpent to be. They are wearing a lot of gear to survive the environment, the harsh environment outside. It doesn't really matter if the figure does not look as dynamic as other figures. It is a snow trooper, and by default, they're not supposed to be the most athletic characters. Even even though the original Snow Serpent came with a snowboard. I like the slight yellow and gray overtone on the fur throughout his body. There's a little bit of bleed in the belt in my version, so the blue is not applied properly everywhere. It bleeds on the white paint underneath. Never a good thing. I think part of the bleed is caused by the trunk being painted blue and then with more paint, white paint on top of it. That might explain the bleed that we can see on the figure. It's the only part where you see that kind of bleed. The other parts are made with original plastic except for the fur, obviously. You see a little bit of bleed in the hands. The plastic of the hands is blue and it's painted white, so there are a few spots where it's not quite covered properly. I like the metallic sheen on the visor, but I think a bit more details could have been used on the side of the helmet, not just the front, but the ears and so on. There are silver spots all over the figure. You'll notice also in terms of paint that this guy does not have the usual Snow Serpent print on his right bicep. He only has the Cobra on his left one. I'm not sure why they decided to remove this. Maybe they said, well, the original Snow Serpent did not have this logo, so we're not going to put it on those figures. I don't understand Hasbro sometimes. It doesn't make sense. Just put the logo. It's a nice one. Why not use it? Why restrict it to one use of one figure? I guess it's not retro enough. In terms of scale, those figures are beefy and big. There'll be some of your bigger classified figures almost topping over Gung-Ho and the Naugahyde build. It's the same build, obviously. So they are bigger figure. Like I said, they're thick and massive because of the gear that they pack. Of course, because they're wearing their snowshoes, they are a bit taller still than other figures. It feels like the forearm are stubs. That's because they're so thick and packed that they feel very puny. I would have preferred if the forearm had been a bit more elongated. These feel stubby, like I said. They don't look as good as they should. In terms of stability, the snowshoes do not help at all. They don't. The snowshoes are problematic. The figure can topple easily, especially since they're top heavy and the backpack, while a bit smaller than the bazooka backpack, is heavy in its own right. So you may have some problems giving stability to this figure. It may not stay up easily. Without the snowshoes, the figure feels a bit more stable, but not that much. I'll have to add that the snowshoes are not retro-like. That's a downer. They gave the figures modern snowshoes as opposed to classic native-like snowshoes. It doesn't feel as iconic or mythical to give them modernized snowshoes, and the whole point of the retro classified line was to give us classic version of modernized classified figures. Why not give them regular snowshoes? The easiest answer is cost. They didn't want to spend the money to sculpt and create a mold just for classic snowshoes, which they could have used with another character in the future, but they decided not. The articulations are the usual. He's very sturdy for that. The knees, the double knee articulation moves easily, which you would think would be a bit more difficult with a figure so thick, but no, I didn't have to put him in hot water either. I did have to put the original Snow Serpent in hot water, but not this guy. The head is mobile, but the neck peg doesn't give that much side to side, but the neck itself moves easily, so you will get the range of side to side that you want with the neck itself, which is itself on a ball joint on the torso. The arms move fluidly. The double articulation on the elbows are smooth. There's also a twist. The biceps. The left wrist is the inside out type of articulation, whereas the right one is a up and down. Like most G.I. Joe classified, he can do the split, especially if you use the drop down feature, but he doesn't need that much flexibility, even though he's on snowshoes. With the back that he's wearing, he's okay. It's not as easy to mimic him aiming in the snow or looking through his viewpoint, so yeah, it's gonna be very difficult to pause the figure as if he's doing something in the snow, hidden in the snow, and ready to aim and shoot at someone. He just can't look through the viewfinder. He can't. That's a bummer. But you can put fire effects on the muzzle of the submachine gun. There's a tie twist. It helps with the stability. The ankles have a boot cut just above, and you can easily move the ankles side to side, but to some extent up and down without having to put the figure in hot water. That's good. Like I said, I like this figure. He's going to be my new squad leader for all my Snow Serpents, since the other ones are the same and he's a bit different. He's a bit lighter, so he's going to be the new Snow Serpent. Serpent leader. Of course, Hasbro probably designed him to be the opposite, to be the troop builder, and the other guys probably the officers. But it doesn't matter. It's your own figures. You do what you want with them, just like I am. Overall, I'll say it's a beautiful figure. It's a nice figure. If you missed out on the original Snow Serpent, this is your chance to get it. It should be available easily. It's also cheaper than the original one. In terms of distribution, you'll find it everywhere that you can find regular G.I. Joe classified. It comes on a card back. I threw mine in the garbage, of course. It's got art similar to the original Snow Serpent with basic information in multiple languages. There's no need for me to show that here. It's not of interest to me. One thing also I should say is that I do throw a lot of my packages. I used to keep them a bit longer, but then they just clutter and eventually you have to get rid of them. So I just get rid of them even before I have to review these figures. I've had this guy for a while now, about a week or two, so I only came around to reviewing him today. That's why the package is already in the garbage and I can't show it to you guys today. Well, it's a great figure. I like it. I hope you like it too. So this is Hervé from Comic Book Bin, filling you in since 2002. Like and subscribe.